Hi there, this is Dr. Samurai, a professor in Japan specializing in international social pathology. In today's Thug Profiles, I have decided to call it Thug Profiles rather than Vicious Criminals Profile and so on. In today's My Thug Profile, I would like to focus on Bobby Joe Long. In the first half, I would like to provide you a general information on Joe, and in the latter half, I would like to let you know what kind of things were going on between Bob and me. Okay? As many of you know, Bobby Joe Long was from Florida. Okay, he was known for being a classified ad rapist. He mainly raped street girls and strippers, and he killed 10 women. And he is also known to have XXY chromosome. It's like abnormal chromosome compared with normal male chromosomes. But to me, he personally denied it very strongly. But I'm going to talk about it later. Right? Unfortunately, he was executed on May 23rd in 2019. Okay? And Bobby usually drove around his Dodge Magnum, big car. All the cars are all big. And he was kind of prowling around town looking for his game. And he often goes to red light district and negotiate with the girl who approaches his car, put the girl in his car and took her to his apartment house and raped her and killed her. Sometimes he killed women by rope, sometimes with the bare hand. It's called strangulation. And sometimes he bludgeoned the lady to death. And some of them were killed by being slashed on his throat. He used many different ways. Why he was arrested in the first place? It was because he let go the last girl he caught. I think at the time she was 17 years old, and she was very smart. She talked to Bob without getting scared, and she said something like she was the only one who could take care of her sick mother. So if she didn't go home, her mother would die too. And Bobby bought it. And she also remembered like how many minutes it took from where she was taken to Bob's home. And also she remembered Bob used the ATM, which at the time not so many people used. So I think this use of ATM was the main thing that police pursued. Go around all the list of the names to find a person who could match their conditions. But anyway, this Lisa's story was so dramatic, so to speak. So it became TV drama and TV movies and won so many awards, I hear. And you know what? This Lisa, who was 17 years old and kind of took him in and ran away from him, had police arrest Bob, is now police officer herself and protecting the town from those people like Bob. It's a pretty much interesting story, isn't it? Though she looks totally different from when she was 17 years old. But on the video, Lisa sounds very confident on what she is doing now. And, so far I talked about the general information. So this was the part 1 on Bobby Jolong. And from here is part 2 on Bob. I used to call him Bob. And I used to start my letter by writing Dear Bob, because there was a TV cartoon which I liked, was about a hamburger shop story. But I thought it was cool starting to write a letter with Dear Bob. But anyway, forget about it. It's my personal story. This is my personal belief that we human beings are all living under natural providence because we are all born as part of nature. So, beyond any religion or philosophies, the to live to the rules of nature is something we cannot run away from. And I think one of the main rules in that natural providence is if you kill one person for no reason, you should be ready to die. I always keep thinking that way, including myself, okay? Based upon that creed, I try to be as close to the thugs as possible to make best friends with them, to draw information which he didn't even disclose to police officers and CEOs and psychiatrists. Okay, that's what I'm always trying to do. And being a Japanese living in Japan put me in an advantageous position to obtain such information. This is true because they think I am neutral, and I am trying to be honest to them too. I never try to deceive them, in the process. Although I know they did the terrible things. That's my policy. And I also, another rule I always stick with is I try not to degrade the victims who already passed. That I will never want to do. And I will also never encourage what the perpetrator did, the acts of violence and murder. But interesting thing is to try to obtain undisclosed, information from the person. What do you think is the best way? The answer is to establish the closest relationship with the person. FBI, ex-FBI investigator John Douglas right? Mr. Douglas is so famous, for Criminal Minds and, you know, The Silence of the Lamb and whatever. But he said a very interesting thing that rang a big bell to me, which was, he was at the time interviewing with the person who murdered 7 women. In order to get closer to him, he said he had to say, how come you could kill 7 holes? You should never waste, such a, important holes, man. Stuff like that. And the perpetrator goes, hey, you are crazier than me, man. And he said the perpetrator then on started to talk about the secrets that he never let other people know. So, we have strong creed, but at the same time, we have to be flexible to accomplish what we are really looking for. But anyway, let's go back to what we are talking about. Okay, to be very honest with you, I was very, very close to Bob, and I kind of liked him personally. I think it was kind of a chemistry thing, It happens with anybody, with the girl or with the boy, okay? Some people we get along naturally, sometimes we do not, however hard we tried. But anyway, Bob was kind of a good guy to me, and it was always fun to talk to him, okay? Even if it was in the letters. And he loved to write long letters. He taught me so many American cultures which I, as a Japanese, would never know. So I sometimes, thought about what if when I was in graduate school for degree, I had lived with Bob, like renting a room of his house or whatever. I sometimes wonder if he forced me to, join his crimes or not. But the reason why I'm saying this is I was so psychologically close to him, okay? And in fact, there are multiple serial murderers who do it in pairs. So it would not have been impossible. But I'm not sure whether I joined it or not. But anyway, I would like to introduce you some of the funny stories that happened between Bob and me. He told me this interesting episode that one time he had to work like graveyard shift at a funeral parlor, right? Graveyard shift. And it was so boring for such a long time. So he called the girlfriend she was playing around with at the time. And she showed up, and there are, of course, so many cascades, right? And some are filled, but some are empty. And he goes, hey, why don't you take off all your clothings and lie down in a casket like a dead body? And she actually did, right? And as soon as she lied down, he closed the lid of the casket, right? And I don't know. After that, I forget about the detail, but they kind of did what the boyfriend and girlfriend do. Funny thing about him was he ended the story with one sentence that, oh, by the way, that girl is still alive, Kenjin. you know. So I kind of laughed, reading his letter. He was such a funny guy, although he was a bad guy. Okay, I could also ask anything I like to ask him about, and he always gave me straight answer. So I asked him, what was so fun about killing other people? What do you think his answer was? He goes, the movie American Psycho? That is kind of close to real thing. I also love the scene of the burning wheelchair in the movie Red Dragon. So, after I got that information, I bought two DVDs on Amazon.com and watched it. And the first movie, like American Psycho, right? He goes like he shot someone with his gun. And of course the target died. He goes like, you know, because of the uh, pleasures, uncontrollable pleasures, he goes like this, you know. And I thought it was very interesting. And I also watched Red Dragon, that burning wheelchair scene. It was very radical, unimaginably, scary scene. Because on the road, there's this wheelchair, and this guy, tied up, whom he didn't like from before, and he's burning, and he goes down so fast on the wheelchair, and Bob said he liked the scene very much. So I kind of guess the level of aggression that they enjoy. And at the time, Bob was divorced from his ex-wife, whom he hung around with since high school days. And, he also had two kids with that ex-wife. Okay? They are still alive. And he said interesting things. He never thought about killing his own wife. But after getting divorced, and she accepted so many TV interviews, and she talked about so many things that Bob didn't feel comfortable with. And Bob said to me, if I was out right now, I am 100% sure I would kill her. So it's like, there's gotta be a reason, for a serial killer to kill too. If he is perfectly satisfied with the woman, he wouldn't kill, like he didn't when they were happily married, although they had so many quarrels and arguments, I hear. Okay? And according to his ex-wife, his mother was very beautiful, like outstandingly beautiful. So when Bob and his mother visited the beach, so many guys came up to her and tried to lure her, which I pretty much sure Bob did not like. And because she was a single mother, she had to, foster Bob on her own, right? So she started to work at the bar. So she started to wear skinny clothing, showing body lines, and sometimes I hear she brought some guy, after work to her one bedroom apartment house. That means Bob had to share the bed with his mom and unknown guy doing something sexual on the other side, which must have been a terrible experience to him. But he never said things negative about his mother. All he said about his mother was, I think she did her best to survive, and I appreciate what she did for me. That's what Bob said, okay? But at the same time, his ex-wife said there was ongoing arguments between Bob and his mother whenever that the ex-wife was present. So it could have been true. It was not the peaceful, old days. Uh, I'm not sure whether it is because of it or not, but I think he was an angry kid, and they had to move so often, and he had to fight each time enter new school. He used to tell me the first day was today. Okay, that means he had to be ready to fight on the very first day, and the first day would decide everything after that. So he said he never backed down. He was already ready to fight and known to be vicious. Okay, I would like to get into something serious that has to do with the why serial killers are born in this society. As I have said, Bob's mother brought different boyfriends at night, and they shared the same bed. But Bob did not deny her and what she did, right? And this has much to do with the psychology of serial killers. You know that the famous psychiatrist Floyd, right? And he said what controls that person is his or her repressed feelings. Okay? Unconscious feelings controls the person. That's what the Floyd said. Okay? And there are so many cases of serial killers in which they were beaten by belt or by electrical cord on their ass, or always argued with the aggressive very sort of offensive and hostile mothers. And also some were deserted by young mother who could not afford to foster her own child. Okay, and there were so many of them who accept what their mother did. They never denied or gave me negative words against their own mother. I think mother did the right thing. I should have listened to what she have said, or she did her best, or all those things to try to affirm what the mother said and what the mother did. There is this deep taboo in society that mother is a sacred existence in society. We can never say negative things about mother socially, right? This is true. This taboo exists in every each one of the society. So even when their mother did clearly morally wrong things, kids could not deny or criticize what she did, right? But the anger is there, right? Because she did the wrong thing. Like, Bob's mother brought a different boyfriend on one bed and they are having sex right next to Bob, who was teenagers at the time. What happens to his psychology? But still, he did not deny his mom and tried to protect mom. But his anger was there, and that anger, must be released somewhere, sometime, if he wanted to lead a normal life. But anyway, so mother did wrong and immoral and aggressive and violent things, clearly, but the boy cannot say anything negative. The boy cannot show his honest feelings about it. And that anger grows up to be hate against all the womankind, all the female. Does this make sense? This is one of the major mechanism of creating serial killers. Okay, mother did the negative thing, but the boy must accept it as positive things, and that anger that exists gotta be released, and that release happens when they kill women in society. Okay, and one other important thing: around 20 years old, Bob got into a very bad motorcycle accident. I think half of his skull was kind of crushed and they put the metal over whatever, and it gave a big damage on his frontal cortex, which controls the emotion. This was the big thing. So after the motorcycle accident, his ex-wife reported that he was kind of obsessed with having sex multiple times a day, and even she could not handle his desires. This is possible, and the similar kind of thing I was able to sense from his letter. Usually 1/3 of what he wrote to me was about sex related things. 1/3. And I was not into those things, so it was very difficult for me to deal with. But I did it anyway. And one big ask he told me was, please put one, like a vagina, or those sexual organs or tits or whatever, mixed into other normal pictures, so that a screening at a mail room would not, recognize it. Or he even asked me, what would you do, Kenji, if me and you and there's another girl having sex together? What kind of thing would you like to do and stuff? He asked me this question so many times, which I was really not interested in. but he liked that, And I kind of think his obsession with sex and also the psychological control in relation to sex was so strong and such a high level. It happened all the time. I could call it even pathological. One third of letter always talked about it, and even in his last letter to let me know the execution day was already set, he put wrote down three things, and one of the three was, you did not answer my question about what would you do when we do three P's, threesome. So it was real. He was not kidding. He was obsessed with the sexual things and naked women and controlling. That even extended to controlling other people's mind sexually. And that is the level of serial murderers, in terms of why they want to keep killing multiple people. Like, Sam Little, that the black gentleman, he killed 90. A Green River Killer, he killed over 50. I think it was 71 or so. So it was habitual, pathological acts that they had no control over. The reason why it happened was their obsession level was at least 3 times, 5 times as high as the ordinary people like us. And it was a very good learning experience. Okay? Yeah, I still remember one time I was successful in sending Mia's Lucy Lou's, kind of a partial nude pictures and stuff. He was so glad, like a kid who got, his dream bicycle, which he couldn't get for a long time and finally got. He said, thank you so much. I'm going to put this Lucy Lou's picture, on the wall, right next to the bed so that I could see it the first thing in the morning and the last thing before he goes to bed. Okay? He was so glad. So you can guess his obsession level. Okay? Do you know Ted Bundy? The answer is yes, right? I was surprised when he said, Ted Bundy was a partner of my tennis game. Like, doubles. He was doubled up with Ted Bundy. And I go like, what kind of guy was he? And he goes like, he was pretty much reliable guy. He never betrayed me, and I was very reliable on him. And it kind of surprised me, to hear things like that about that famous Ted Bundy. Also, when Ted was executed, he told me inside the prison was filled with cry and, all those shouting and stuff. Because they always do countdown things on, execution. What he told me was knowing Ted Bundy in person, he goes like he could not believe people can be such joyous over one person's death. Guessing he was thinking about his own time coming. Although at the time it was kind of far away. Okay? And also, there's another death row inmate called Oscar Ray Bowling Jr. Bob knew him personally too, and he liked Oscar too. You know, I watched a video in which Oscar said, you go to sleep and you wake up and you are always in this same small cell every day, every morning, every night, in the same small cell. If this continues, it might not be a bad idea for me to die. And I think he was executed the very next day or on the same day. I'm sorry about that, but either day, on the same day or the day after. Their relationships were much closer than what the ordinary people have was them, because we only know the images we see on TVs and news and so on. And getting close to the end of my story, but he was pretty much handsome person, Bob, and he was very popular. He kept receiving letters from girls, and he kind of kindly sent me some with the picture of the girls. Part of him wanted to boast of how popular he was, which I did not mind. But anyway, there's this new girlfriend, right? And he goes like, this time, Kenjin, this girl is a real thing. She's so beautiful, and we get along very well. I can trust her. Things like that. I was very happy, but at the time he didn't have money, so I bought him some stamps so that he could use them to communicate with her. And I suddenly thought that I had not heard from him for like 2 months or so. Probably he was doing okay with the girl, and he forgot about me, which was not the, and I don't care, things like that. Then suddenly this one letter arrived at my mailbox by Bob. It was much thinner than usual. It was a page and a half, and it said, Kenjin, the time I was afraid of finally came. I'm now already at preparatory room on Florida State Prison. I was already transferred to another institution, right? Because they were normally moved to a room closer to, what they do. But he said to me, I think this is going to be my last letter. But I think I could receive your letter up until I get killed. But the one I can write to you, this is the last one. And he said things like this. Thank you very much for being a good friend, such a good friend to me. I really enjoyed our talk, and I just wanted to let you know directly that things will finally happen. It was like that. Very shocking, you know. Although I know what he did, okay, it was shocking to me, who was so closely communicating with Bob. In reply, I wrote to him, Dear Bob, what a bummer. I was thinking you were having a good time with your new girlfriend using the precious stamps I sent you. And I was happy, thinking about it. You taught me so many things about the music and camping and movies and so many things that I did not know, and I truly appreciate teaching me all those things because I'm pretty much hobbyless, and I said if I had known you way before and shared a room with you and stuff, maybe you could have taught me so many other things than what you taught me in the letters. This is still part of the letter I wrote to him, okay? Listen, Bob, this is my true voice from the bottom of my heart. Probably people who will show up at your execution will be enjoying your death. There's nobody who is friendly to you. Nobody. Okay? So, when the day comes and CEOs take you to the room, don't look at them. Just, focus on yourself and lie down on the bed without looking at anything with your eyes closed. And I know they will ask you, do you have your last words? You just say no. You don't need to leave any word in the presence of others who are looking for your death. But one thing I can truly tell you is among those 10 women you killed, some lady must have been very nice to you if you had met with them in a different situation. So I think to think about it and feel genuinely sorry for those possibilities, you could rest yourself more peacefully. Thank you for being my friend. That's what I wrote. And the very next day I checked the news on the web, and I also listened to the news on the AFN radio, okay, in Japan. And it said he did exactly what I told him. So I guess he was able to receive my letter. He didn't look up. He just closed his eyes and lay down. Didn't even leave a word. That 3 cylinders started to goes down. He one time opened his mouth big to breathe in air, and then quietly became immobile. That's what Nude said. I know what he said, and he, well, deserves to die. My intuitive feelings was it was good that he didn't have a hard time dying. Serial killers, right? Most people do not know what kind of people they are. I kind of know, maybe 80% of them. They are different from psychopaths who have very shallow emotions. Rather, they are a normal person who has this uncontrollably violent, sexual, destructive urge. And whenever a sexual urge comes up inside him, or whenever he faces the situation that made him feel miserable in his childhood, he snaps. And to maintain his normalcy, he had to kill. But other than that, they are normal people with humor, with some very intelligent, and some have some other talents and stuff. like that. I know if my family members were killed, I would take care of the business myself, honestly. Because, like I said, the most important rule in this world is not to invade and not to be invaded. You know, it is beyond any religion or any economic principles and any philosophies not to be invaded. And thinking about what happened to Bob, he was loved by his mother, but at the same time, she made him feel she's female and showed sexual acts in front of him with some unknown guy. And based upon the mixture of love and hate and anger, he was involved in that motorcycle accident which destroyed his frontal cortex, which controls his feelings. So it made it much more easier for him to do whatever he feels like to do without any psychological stuff. All those things said, the last thing I remember about my Bob is what he said around the time of Christmas. He used to say, "I hate Christmas very much." So what he does is he kind of put himself into his futon or blanket to shut out the outside world, and he put on his headphone and listened to his favorite music. That way he is pretty much on his own, and the music is making him feel happy. He was a very thoughtful person, as his ex-wife said. I believe that. But she and also Lisa, the police officer who was 17 years old before, his ex-wife and Lisa both said there was this hair trigger in him. Like, one time he is very kind and gentle, but without knowing it, the switch turns on and he suddenly becomes incredibly violent. So those violent face and too kind, too gentle personality coexisted inside Bob. And I still believe that happened during those childhood days when he hated it and hated it and hated it that his loving mother was doing something sexual with a guy he doesn't even know and he hates so much. That hair trigger anger was implanted on the warm bed that he shared with his mother and unknown guys having sex right next to him. That's what I believe. So the last word I would like to tell you is, in today's world that advocates independence of women and women's rights, and right after they bore children they start to go back to work. That desire I do understand, but there's some natural rule. There is some natural providence which we should never cross over. That is to show kids the sexual and feminine side of mother. So we should think about this to make a society more peaceful and truly gentle. Okay, thank you very much. Until next time, please have a wonderful day. Okay? Bye-bye.